Hello YouTube, welcome back to our videos. This one is directed at the Medano community and the community of Medano users. If you're unaware of what that is, it's a financial modeling tool that we use as a firm. It helps us to scale our models, it helps us to build consistent models, and it automates a lot of the model building functions, as well as provides a library for us to leverage off. So my analogy I always use is WordPress, if people understand WordPress. So it's sort of WordPress for websites, where it offers a platform for connecting of different aspects of a website together. It also provides you templates, allows you to create your own if you're a power user of it. Anyway, so that is Medano. This is a video directed at the Medano users for developers within Medano, and understanding practical ways of using or building or customizing in Medano. So what we're going to cover today is just high level the differences between the different views or the common views in a Medano model or in models in general, but the way it's sort of simplified in building these views in Medano. And what we're talking about is blocks and categories layouts. And we also want to address how we can leverage module links. People aren't aware. It's something you can definitely turn to the online resources within Medano. There's plenty there to try and teach you. But what we're trying to do here is try to give you some practical examples of how you can build that yourself and some of the ways that you think of using some of that content. So let's dive into it. I've got myself a model, a blank model set up here ready to go. So what we're going to do is I'm going to insert myself an empty module. Let's just tackle revenue because that's always the high level thing to look at. We're purely looking at a forecast only. The same thing applies no matter how you look at your model. We'll cover some more different styles of content later. So a lot of the work we do is around operational, so historical forecast, and there's a lot of analysis or nuances there. But forecast only is the most basic type of modeling. Let's use that as the platform to run these discussions. So two key views that we always look at, and I kind of skipped ahead. So I dropped a module in. So for some of you, you might be aware of what that means, but let me just explain that a little. So within Medano, when you build a model, you're thinking in layers. And understanding the different layers allows you to speed up your model building and make it more consistent as well on an ongoing basis. So what I've done there is I've inserted a module. So all of this is on the Medano online learning content, and you should absolutely give that a whirl to try and learn, but I'll try and skip ahead to the practical side. So for example, revenue module, I just inserted an empty module. The default is it will create a module area. I'm not going to go too deeply into that in this video, but that's the module area is the first layer. Well, in fact, the workbook is the first layer, but again, I'm not going to go too deep into this. But if we look at the module, we've got revenue. Revenue is the revenue module has components. So in here, we've got component, revenue assumptions. That's the default that got created when I inserted the module. You can customize that on insertion or when you first build the module, but the default that got created for me is assumptions. So I can double click this and it'll take me to the area. Now, we know Medano has inbuilt navigation, table of contents. We can click ourselves to the table of contents. It'll show us the table of contents. I've got a blank workbook here, and it's taking me to the overview tab, and I'm just getting myself back here. But essentially, we've got that tool that I use, the project manager, or that you should use. It just is a quick way to navigate complex models and navigate around the modules within a complex model, because sometimes it's not that easy to understand when you've got a lot of things going on in a model. You can still get the table of contents, but understanding what module component you're dealing with or what module you're dealing with sometimes is the easy way to try and navigate around the model as a developer. So what we're going to delve into is this concept of blocks and layout sections. So we're going to build do something basic. So let's just go revenue, revenue as amounts. So this is something I want to kind of keep reiterating. Like there's always differences between amounts and drivers. So we're going to start with amounts. So amounts being a dollar figure, the revenue, you might have it worked out on a separate worksheet. And then you can bring that in, or you might just have, for a lot of companies that I see, they just have revenue figures that they'll want to achieve for the next financial year. So amounts is the starting point. So what we'll do is we're going to jump into revenue. We're going to look at it from this perspective. We sell widgets here, so we're going to do widgets. So widget 1, widget 2, widgets 2. And so what we have is, let's just go 5,000 and 10,000. Now, what I've done here is built out a block view. It's somewhat self-explanatory. The categories within here are in a block. Now, it's important to understand the concept of categories. It's the next layer down from modules, module areas, modules, module components, and then categories. And the importance here is this is where a significant level of scale can be built into Medano. So I'll touch on the benefit of it in just a sec. Now, what we're going to do is I've shown you this block. Now, this block is useful when you're trying to do things like input data in a quick, concise way. So, you'll see in a lot of financial models where assumptions are held in a single area. They might have assumptions built in blocks like this. You might see it on a non-time series. A lot of other standards have it on other time series, on blank assumption pages, what have you. But the point is, it's a block of assumptions that all relate to revenue. And we're going to leverage this block. What we're going to do is we're going to try and break this out into a set of drivers and drive that revenue number. So it's no longer on amounts. It's going to be a category layout that is driven at the most basic level, unit and price. So what I'll do is I'll use the same module. I'm going to break it out, and I'm going to, instead of inserting a new block, I'm going to leverage the existing one we have. And what we'll do is insert a section, insert categories. We're going to leverage the existing one. And just to tidy cells up a bit, let's just bring it to the left. I'm going to use the same referencing, and we'll go into deep dives here to work out other ways, or to show other ways that we can, build off the category. But for now, let's keep it simple. We're going to look at a unit and a price. So for each one, we're going to have unit and price. And what you see is, as you build it, the units and prices are built out for you. For each category. Now, layouts are the same as a block in that they are kept consistent. You can almost think of a layout as sets of blocks. So the same way to think about this is, if I were to go, I need units, and we're going to bring in units of the same block, we're going to have price. We're going to break that out into the same block again, and we'll have our amounts here. Now, obviously, I'm sort of skipping through, as you build, the ideal way is you style it, give it headings, label it. So, for example, we might say these should be in amounts. And again, this will depend on how your firm does it, but we have, general ways that we do it. So this will be currency. So what we've created, or what I wanted to show you, is having a layout is exactly the same as having multiple sets of blocks. And it's probably a good way to try and understand the concept of it. So what we'll do here is we'll build it out. We're going to have revenue. And how about we put this down the bottom? So we'll have revenue. So revenue down the bottom. And we're going to do that. Okay, so if we want to create the same thing we have there, we've got, let's just say widget 1 is 2 lots at 2,500. And we've got ourselves our formula, so that times that. So again, understanding blocks and layouts, they are forced to be the same. So a block is consistent. So as you see, as we build it, the assumptions are kept consistent. But in here, what you'll also find within the layout, again, it's a set of blocks. So this set of blocks has been treated consistently. So I've put a formula in here to go unit times price. Simple. It's forced that set to be unit times price. So if we go in here and we go, okay, we're going to have 1 or 5 lots at 2,000. Now we'll see that the same thing occurs. And as you see, I bolded, and again, it maintained consistency. Now, this is a base level understanding, but you'll see that it gets to the same outcome, revenue, and having blocks versus layouts. You still get to your revenue number. So what I'll do is I'll make them the same, 2 lots, and we've got 5 lots. We've got 2,500 for pricing, and we've got 2,000 for pricing. I'm going to make that a currency to keep it consistent. I'm going to turn this into an output, and we'll multiply down. So again, see, the formulas have to maintain consistency. So we get to the same result, 5,000 and 10,000. Now, this layout is useful for understanding content in isolation. So I want to look at widgets in isolation. This might be useful for stuff like where you're trying to build a cumulative balance or loan balances, where you want to see that thing in isolation, so you can focus on the key aspect of that item by itself. Whereas something like revenue, this is okay, where you split it into thinking about it in sets of data. So sets of volume or sets of price. It just depends on what you're looking at. From a block perspective, it's actually better for summarizing data. It's better for taking layouts and summarizing layouts. So, the other way that we often do it is we might build out our blocks, but we might then go and create a summary. Now, I'm shortcutting. You might want to do another component for this, but I'm just showing for the purpose of this. What we want to do is potentially you might want to go and summarize your layout into a number. So let's just pretend that we did not do this section up above. I'm going to group it away. We've got our laid out section, and we want to summarize our revenue. So if we just go like this, and then we add our total, what we can then do is we can use our laid out section to summarize. So I'm just going to take my totals, and there we go. So, multiple ways to cut it. Practice both ways. They're both useful, but the key thing here is understanding the layouts, because the benefit here is once you understand how to build this properly, you can now quickly scale. So as we get more categories, we're going to insert categories. Now we all of a sudden have our blocks expanded, so you can look at it from that perspective, or we have our layouts expanded, looking at it from that perspective, and we have a summary expanded. So very useful. Understanding the two is super important. Take your time to practice simple scenarios, just focus on revenue, unit and price, breaking it down and seeing how that goes for you. And we'll have more content on this down the track, but yeah, I think this is a good starting point.